Welcome to The Dollar, the show where I'm pooling together every single dollar sent in to me by my channel members in order to make the most delicious thing possible. There's only a few rules. Number one, everybody can only contribute a maximum of $1. Number two, we must use 100% of the funds sent in to us. That means no keepsies at all. And number three, whatever we cook has to be delicious. And for this very first episode, we are working with a single, humble dollar sent in to me by my very first channel member, Tommy Woodyard. Now, Tommy's a pretty special guy because out of the 70 million views that I've gotten on my videos, he was the only one to go into my page and notice this experimental concept. And with almost no information on what he was actually supporting, he went ahead and signed up and then sent me this. That's not my mom, that's not my friend, that's just a real random guy who actually believed in this idea. Thank you, Tommy. Now let's go make your dollar into something gourmet. So $1 is both a very exciting and challenging budget to work with. We're only going to be able to afford one or maybe two ingredients, and most things under $1 at the supermarket can't hold up a dish on their own. That is, until we come across the giant pile of 79-cent scallion. What makes this such a perfect choice is that it's the star ingredient in this. A scallion pancake. After watching and analyzing endless recipes, many being in Chinese, I've learned that the scallion pancake has so much more variants than anyone ever talks about. Some are flat, some are thick, light scallion, endless scallion, and even more variations on how to fold them. So I've gone ahead and fused all the best looking practices into this $1 recipe. First step is to figure out how much dough we can afford. We have a $5 bag of King Arthur flour and 21 cents left in our budget. That means that we can afford a cool 100 grams of flour. Scallion pancake dough is set at 70% hydration, so given we're using 100 grams of flour, we just need to measure out 70 grams of water. And since this amount of water should be precise, we're going to microwave it instead of heating it in a pan to avoid losing any to sticking or evaporation. We then add it to the flour and quickly start mixing it with chopsticks. If you don't mix this well, flour is going to get stuck to the side of the bowl and throw off our measurements. We're looking for a popcorn or feta-like texture, and you can tell it's good because when you squeeze it, it compacts into a uniform shape. We can then compress the dough so it makes a cohesive ball that we can take out and begin kneading. For a good strong dough, we should be pressing and stretching this dough with each repetition. If you aren't good at this part, just do it for longer. It's really no big deal. Now would be a good time to scrape all the cocaina off the table and let the dough rest in a bowl covered in vegetable oil for at least 30 minutes, which gives us plenty of time to deal with the scallion. For this recipe, we've chosen a scallion that is as green as possible in order to maximize the flavor and beauty of the dish. We're also going to do a pretty heavy trim on the juicy part of the scallion, and I think this is a great idea because we're going to get more green color in a dish that's basically just seared dough. Of course, we're not going to waste this. We're just going to split them down the middle and then throw them into a pan with some oil, simmering them on low heat for just a few minutes. Because of the split we made down the middle, the oil is able to penetrate through more of the scallion, giving us maximum flavor extraction. This infused oil is going to become an essential ingredient in our yo su, which is a paste that gets spread over the pancake to prevent the layers from sticking. Without measuring, I'm adding 1 spoonful of flour to the bowl, and we're also going to need finely ground black pepper. I keep salt in my pepper grinder because it's more common I need to control the size of my salt rather than my pepper, but in this case, we need access to that finely ground option. This is because 5 spice powder is usually the preferred choice, but black pepper is still traditional. However, in all those cases, it should be as fine as possible so it becomes kind of a background flavor in the dish. This mixture then gets seared with boiling hot scallion infused oil and mixed quickly in order to move all that heat around and get integrated while it's still hot. This paste is what's going to keep those layers separated and bind the scallions to the pancake. For the green part of the scallion, let's give them a rough vertical chop and then come in from the side to mince them. Even though the round cut is the most common, it would be way too big for the unconventional fold we're going to be doing later. Our dough is now rested and we have to turn this ball into a rectangle. The best way I've seen this done is to poke a hole right through the center and then stretch it out. This is you, and this is the guy that she tells you not to worry about. Then we cut the ring open and make it into a decent starting rectangle. Scallion pancakes can be rolled out on top of flour, but we're going to go with oil since it's easier to work with and it's not going to make the dough any drier or wetter while we shape it into a larger, thin rectangle. We can now spread our black pepper scallion infused yosu all over the surface, followed by a generous portion of our delicious emerald green onions. Now this next part is our biggest deviation from a standard scallion pancake. We're gonna pick up the right side of the sheet and fold it like a book, and then we're just gonna start slicing into it to make a series of cuts that will each be independent strings in the pancake. Now we can roll it up gently, not wanting to put any pressure on the strings so they don't fuse back together, and once it's rolled up, I like to twist it into a rope so it locks in those scallions, and then we start rolling up the rope. As we roll it, we're pulling on it slightly, giving it tension all the way until we get to the tail. We want to take the rolling pin to flatten it out and then tuck it underneath the bun to give it a nice, good seal. What we're left with is this beautiful spiral bun that's absolutely teeming with scallions. This technique comes from a Chinese pancake that actually has no scallions in it, so by fusing it with this recipe, we get something that's so much more interesting than your average scallion pancake. Because the bun went through so much during the rolling process, we're going to let it rest for about 5 minutes before hitting it with the rolling pin one more time and then throwing it in a frying pan so we can brown it nicely on both sides. As you can see, we have many distinct swirling strands of crispy pancake with a very generous and deep green scallion filling. The swirl came out looking great, and it really gives us a variance between thin crispy pieces and the more gummy center. The shape also adds so much fun while eating it, letting you mix and match all of the different textures that we got going on here. It kind of feels like a big hash brown the way it falls apart. I think that for $1, this is going to be really hard to beat. We've taken these ingredients to their limit and added so much work and know-how by merging several great Chinese recipes together. And if you want to see what we make with a bigger budget, consider joining the $. We already have 2 new members, and if not, don't worry about it. You watching to this point is all I could ever want in life. See you on the next one. Ciao bella.